So what was impressive to everybody was how you brought a completely unknown program to the arts club, other than the Mozart, that would be the Cacciatorian, and
Yeah,
people just went absolutely nuts. And there's no other way to describe the
I
reaction.
got away with it. Yeah.
You got away with it. So tell me, how did you get into that music in the first place?
I mean, I played quite a bit of, well, actually not quite a bit, that's a lie. I remember being about 8 or 9 when I did one of his children's pieces, and when I was about 11 or 12, I did the toccata, which everybody knows, and quite a lot of people have played.
Oh, sure, of course.
And I didn't really know much about Cacciatorian. I just liked those pieces, and I completely forgot about them until my second year of university. A friend of mine started an orchestra, and he wrote to me saying, "Will you do List 2?" And obviously, I was quite happy to do List 2. It's a great work. And I noticed on the program that they're doing sort of very, very large orchestral works. And I asked him, how big is the orchestra? And because he's a friend, I asked him if I can do anything I like instead of the list. And he said, sure, what do you like? And I think I was at that stage when I wanted to do something completely different, wacky, and somebody not many people play. And I heard the Cacciatorian Concerto when I was maybe 14, 15. I tried to play bits of it when I was much younger, and I couldn't even go through it because I was quite young. And really that's what started it. My piano teacher, Murray McLaughlin, he recorded the Cacciatorian piano works in 1992. And so when I did tell him that I was learning the Cacciatorian Concerto, he was quite happy. The concerto went well, and then he suggested that I should start looking at the sonata, which is one of the pieces of Cacciatorian I played at the Arts Club. And it really, really went on from there. I sort of fell in love with the sonata, and then realized that I'd like to explore the rest of his music. And so I did. And then, I chose to record it for my debut album.
So just to backtrack a hair, you mentioned List 2, you mean the concerto.
Yeah, sorry, Liszt Second Piano Concerto.
So you were playing the Liszt Second Piano Concerto.
Well, I mean, I was asked to play it, yeah. And then I just thought that's too mainstream. I wanted to do something
Got it.
very different.
Got it.
And that's why I suggested the Cacciatorian, because I've never heard it. I've never heard it live. I've actually never heard anyone play it live, apart from me, obviously.
Yeah.
And it was a great choice, I think.
So, and coming from, you're originally from Amman, Jordan, and I happen to know that you moved to London when you were 14, or rather
Manchester. Yeah, I moved to Manchester when I was 14 to study at Chetham's.
Right, and you mentioned to the audience about the kind of the shock of the cultural shock from specific to the music itself.
It's mostly music. The actual
concert repertoire going from Amman to Manchester. Maybe chat about that a little bit.
I mean, the reason my parents rather, pushed me to move from Jordan to pursue better studies. The musical scene in Jordan is only recently, and I'm saying about a year or so, that it's been developing. When I grew up there, classical music was really not. I mean, music and arts and culture in Amman Jordan is a very rich country in culture, but in classical music, it wasn't as celebrated. And so I think when I got to about 13 or 14, my piano teacher in Jordan kind of had a quiet chat with my parents, and he said, look, if you want him to really take this seriously, he needs to, get specialist education. And so I went to Chetham's. But if you're referring to what I was talking about in the arts club, it's the connection of Armenian music and Arabic music. There's a lot of similarities. There's a lot of similarities in rhythms and harmony, the sort of the improvisation, the pedal notes, things like that. So I do find Cacciatorian very attractive, and it reminds me a little bit of music I grew up listening to.
I haven't been to Tbilisi.
Neither have I, unfortunately.
But I very much want to go. He, of course, was born there to Armenian parents, and had a kind of a get along go-along relationship with the government, with the
Yeah.
Lenin and Stalin and so forth, and Khrushchev,
Yeah.
and probably beyond. I'm trying to think. Um, although he was condemned also by the government, along with Shostakovich, Prokofiev,
Of course, that's 1948.
yeah, Kabalevsky.
Yeah.
But it's believed he was condemned because he was the head of the composer union, rather than because of his music. And just FYI, it's documented that he did not actually change his music at all, but somehow
No.
he was forgiven and brought back into the fold. But also, I'm intrigued by the fact that he did go back to Armenia and
He
spent a
did,
long
yeah.
time there, really soaking up the music. Of course, it got me thinking of Bartok. So Bartok was doing his collecting with Kodai while Khachaturian was just an infant, 1905,
Yeah.
1906. And I'm wondering if it got me thinking, are you digging into Bartok's music as well?
No, I actually haven't, but quite a lot of people have suggested that I should start looking into Bartok. I love Bartok. I love his music. But I haven't really sort of gone into it as much as I have with Khachaturian. Maybe I should. But I do see what you mean, because they're both, they have very similar approach in the sense of using folk melodies and doing things with them.
Yeah, I am a big Bartok fan.
Yeah.
I make sure my students play quite a lot of his microcosmos.
Yeah.
It gives them a whole new language, as you know. They think it's weird as heck when they first started. And that's, by the way, I went to Budapest as a student, and I brought back some recordings, and I thought, this is the strangest music I've ever heard. It was a famous, I think her name was Elizabeth Tusa, a famous Hungarian concert pianist. I lucked into bringing back her recordings of the sonata and
Yeah.
other pieces. And it took me, because I tell you honestly, Iyad, I'm listening to this music, I'm saying, there's something here. I know there is. And I kept listening to it over and over again. I finally got really sucked in, it was just a great educational moment. So anyway, let's talk about, you've been working on the Khachaturian project, and there's more to come, isn't that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. So for the first album, I did most of his solo works. I'm hoping there will be a second album with the rest of his works, such as the recitatives and fugues, the second children's album, Vocalise, which is the last piece he ever wrote for the piano. He also transcribed the first movement of the Masquerada suite. And there's the Great Sonata's second version, which he kept editing really until the end of his life. But we have a much shorter, slightly different version, still very similar to the first version, but it's worth recording. And then, of course, there's the great Piano Concerto and Piano Rhapsody. Well, Concerto Rhapsody for piano and orchestra.
Sure.
But the Concerto Rhapsody and the Piano Concerto couldn't be any more different, because you've got 1936 Khachaturian writing incredibly popular music, really, and then you got the much later, late 60s Rhapsody. Actually, I think 1971. Sorry, and it's extremely contemporary. Well, not for now, but it's much less melodic than his concerto.
Sure. Let me, I don't want to forget, you were in the US for the first time. You stayed here for 2 weeks. You played at Castleton on that fantastic stage. For the Moselle Heritage space there, and you played at Steinway Hall, and then you played at the Arts Club of Washington. And may I bother you to just tell me about your experience at the Arts Club? What was that like?
It was incredible. It's a beautiful club, and I'm so happy that I got to actually stay in the club. Met so many great people, and beautiful instrument there, and it was a really nice crowd. It really felt like, I think the fact that it was also packed kind of hell. But it really is. Every time I remember my concert at the Arts Club, I really do smile, and I'd do anything to go back because it really did not feel like a concert for me. It felt like playing to friends, which is I very rarely feel that way because I do get quite nervous before concerts, but I really felt like, you know, I'm having a bit of fun. Actually, I'm having a lot of fun. So it was very special to me.
It was quite an evening, I have to say, and I believe that the president awarded you with the Arts Club of Washington mug.
Yeah, which I actually drink from almost every morning.
Oh, I'll be darned.
I honestly, I still do. I do have other mugs. It's not like this is the reason, but I do like that mug.
Well, I'll make sure that Henry sees
I'll
this
send it my best.
this word on his behalf. The reception afterwards was like really memorable. The administrator of the club had to throw everybody out finally.
It really was a party.
He had to blink the lights, you know, okay.
Yeah, it
So
was
we
a
had to
party.
take the party next door.
Yeah.
So,
Which we did.
which we did, right.
Yeah.
I also wanted to mention that you got to meet Chris Schmidt.
I did. Yeah.
Pianist.
And you both showed me around Washington the next day, which was lovely.
Yes, I think you insisted that we go bar hopping at 10:30 in the morning.
That is not true. We did, unfortunately, we couldn't get into the White House, but we did see things from the outside. It was lovely, but it was a horrible day. It was raining nonstop, and I had a flight to catch in the evening.
Something like that.
Yeah,
Something
but
like
it only made me want to come back to Washington and really, you know, come on a holiday and just. I'm not saying this, by the way, because it's you, but you know, from the whole American tour, I do think Washington was the best city. I don't know why I loved it. I mean, I know why, but
we'll keep that a secret. I wanted to get on to finally, Iyad, what you're thinking about next, say the next 3 years as far as projects, types of music.
Yeah.
And you had mentioned earlier that a lot of composers are sending their scores to you. So this creates some questions for you and some decisions on your part.
I think I'd like to finish the Catch Touring project first. It's just me being OCD, I think. Just wanting to just get it done and enjoy myself doing it. And as you mentioned, I've been quite touched, really. I've had quite a lot of composers been writing to me who have heard the record of the Catch Touring and have asked me if I can interpret their works. So that's always a lovely position to be in, and it's quite it's quite flattering, really, that people would trust me with their music. But I do play a lot of other things. I'm still in the project of learning the complete piano sonatas of Mozart. Mozart Piano Sonatas is still something that I adore. And Franz Liszt is another composer that I think is absolutely incredible. But in terms of projects, I think the Catch Touring is the number one, and just learning as much repertoire as I can and try and perform as much as I can.
Super.
Really, that's the immediate plan.
Yeah, so you know, some of these composers send you those scores because they can't find anybody in the world that will agree to play their music.
I don't think it's not, well, no, I don't think so. I mean, there's always, I don't know what to say to you about that. You put me in no.
No, I'm just joking around.
I mean, it's always wonderful to look at new music, and I've worked with many composers, and I do enjoy contemporary music. And it's always lovely when you get sent a score and you get some time to look at it, and
well, I'm going to tell you something, Iyad. You know, I remember from a pianist whom you probably don't know, Russell Sherman, who in his New York days and Boston days, he was a brilliant pianist. He did the Transcendental Etudes. You can look them up, complete, and complete Beethoven sonatas and so forth. But Russell hung out with all the cats in New York, and he was always performing their music as it was being written back in the 50s and 60s. And in those days, people were, this was Charles Warren and people like this, they were very devoted to the 12-tone technique and serialism. This was extremely demanding music that there was almost no audience for. And Russell played this, I can tell you from firsthand experience, he played it as if it was Chopin or Debussy. He just played it with such magic. And I think you're in a position similar to Russell to bring out the magic in the piece, which is what, just to wrap things up, this is what you did with the Cacciatorian.
No, I agree. There's always something to do in any piece of music. And there's always, like you say, magic to discover. And that's what I said. That's why I love looking at music that's sent to me. I love searching for that magical moment, really. But you can say that about any composer, not just contemporary composers. You can look at a magnificent Mozart sonata and then find that one bit that is just so magical that makes it different than the rest of it. But without the risk of being cheesy, that's really the beauty of playing the piano. There's always that search. That's what makes it really exciting.
Always a search. That's right. Sadly, in some of the music we play of Liszt and Ravel, there's so many magical moments we just don't know where to start.
That's true. I'll agree to that.
There you go. Yeah, thanks. And
Pleasure.
Look forward to seeing you before long, either in London
I
or
hope so.
New York.
Yeah.
And
I'll be in London soon.
And I'll let you get back to practicing.
Yeah. Thank you. Cheers.
See you later.
Take care.